Good afternoon and welcome to the City Council meeting for the City of International Falls for Monday, September 17, 2018. I would ask all present to please arise and pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would ask the administrator to note the roll call with Councillor Pearson not present. Move to the agenda, and we have a number of additions to the agenda, starting under new business. Item number 1, a resolution accepting the resignation of Councillor Pearson. Number 2, appointing Joseph Kraus to fill the vacancy in the Center Ward. Number 3, to administer the oath of office. Number 4, to approve and consent to appointment of Brian Briggs to the North Cooch Board of Directors. Number 5, to administer the office. Under number 11, under new business, review of the ballot proofs. And under item 14, a number of public works recommendations, including changes to calendar parking, the ordinance on time of change, the Teepee Motel agreement, negotiating a contract with the Recreation Hockey Association, and authorizing the purchase of equipment for Carson Loopy Playground. Council's pleasure with the agenda and additions. Motion by Councillor Briggs to adopt the agenda with the additions. Second by Councillor Droba. Discussion on the motion or the agenda.
Could we just have a quick discussion on how we got items 1 through 4 and why it's pushed since it was published in the newspaper, just the timing and why we're at, and the decision that was made at our Budget and Finance meeting?
Received a resignation on Thursday after the approval, and given that there have been 4 meetings, I believe the past 4 meetings there has been no representation for the Center Ward here. As Mayor asked to have that put on the agenda, the resignation, and since in reviewing the upcoming election and certificates that have been filled out, propose that we would appoint the person who is running unopposed for that position. And then with regard to item 4, Councillor Pearson, I've sent her a subsequent email with regard to serving on the board, on the North Couchiching Area Sanitary District Board, and she's unable to make those meetings and hasn't been there for at least the past 4 meetings.
Yep, that I just wanted to have it satisfied for the public of why this was not wasn't on the Journal's agenda and how we got to it, because it seems like a lot of information to put forth, but it was all with due diligence to make sure that Center Ward was represented.
Thank you. Further discussion with regard to the agenda. Hearing none, question.
Aye.
Aye.
And I would vote yes. Motion is carried. Agenda is approved with the additions. Thank you. Move to the minutes of the September 4, 2018 City Council meeting. Motion by Councillor Briggs to approve the minutes. Second by Councillor Jackson. Question on the motion or the minutes? Hearing none, question.
Aye.
Aye.
And I would vote yes. on that motion, and that would approve the minutes for the September 4 regular city council meeting. Thank you. Move to the resolution on transfers and payment of claims. We have 3 transfers from Fund number 601 of the Water and Sewer Fund to the General Fund, $9,951.67. From the Water and Sewer Fund to Fund 401 Permanent Improvement, $62,500. Also from the Water and Sewer Fund to the Reserve for Capital Outlay, $25,760.42. We have accounts payable claims from the City of International Falls for $1,070,449.56. Airport Commission claims of $25,500.38. And Library Board claims of $8,454.65. Your pleasure with the resolution approving the transfers and the payment of claims.
I'll approve that, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councillor Jacksaw to adopt the resolution.
I'll second.
Second by Councillor Droba. Discussion on the motion or the resolution? For any of the transfers or claims? Seeing none, question?
Aye.
I would vote yes. Motion is carried. Resolution is adopted, approving the transfers and the payment of claims. Thank you. We'll go to the audience. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to approach the council at this time that is not on the agenda? I'd like to take the lead on this one and ask, Rob Pastor is here, and if you would just stand for a moment to be recognized. Rob is the new Chief Executive Officer at Rainy Lake Medical Center, the new administrator there that will be overseeing the operation at the Rainy Lake Medical Center. And Rob, I thank you for being here. Did you want to make any statements to the community?
No, I've been here 2 weeks.
Thank you for being here. Anyone else in the audience that is not on the agenda that wishes to approach the council? Another opportunity at the end of the meeting. Do have the book drive with Ted Saxton going to be here, the city administrator?
Mayor, he did speak with me and asked to be on the agenda. I indicated I would put him on early. He was going to forward me some information, which I never received. I don't know if he has a meeting conflict, but I do not have anything. I did expect to see him here.
Thank you. We'll move to the public hearing then and the second reading and adoption of the ordinance of the 5th series, amending the City Code, Chapter 2, Section 2-52, by deleting the residency requirements for the police department personnel and temporary ambulance attendants. Council's pleasure with that second reading.
Move.
Motion by Councillor Briggs.
Second.
Second by Councillor Jacksaw. Discussion. I know we had discussion at the last meeting with regard, and I know that Councillor Jacksaw had raised some question with regard to it. I will have to say, Chief, that it's somewhat unpopular with some residents that we would allow police officers not to live in the city. It's been that way for many, many years. Some folks didn't understand that, but that they can live anywhere now without any time requirement seems to be even somewhat bothersome to some people. Not everyone. Just wanted to let you know that that is the case.
But actually, based on law, we really can't do that. So really,
That's
I
right.
have a choice but to drop the objection.
We can't force folks to live in the city.
Much as I would like to put a big, require it of everybody, right? Everybody has to live in the city.
Only in the Eastern Bloc, I think, do they do that. With that, further discussion. None, question.
Aye.
I would vote yes. Motion is carried, and the city code is amended for the second reading. Thank you. Move to new business then, and we have resolution with regard to Councillor Pearson's resignation. Ask the council's pleasure with that resolution under item number 1. Motion by Councillor Briggs,
Second.
second by Councillor Jacksaw, to accept the resignation of Councillor Pearson. Discussion? Question?
Aye.
Aye.
I would vote yes. Motion is carried with regret that we accept her resignation. Item number 2 then is the resolution appointing Joseph Kraus Jr. to fill the vacancy in the elective office of Councillor of the Center Ward.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councillor Jacksaw,
I'll second.
second by Councillor Droba to adopt the resolution and appoint Joseph Kraus to fill the vacancy in the Center Ward. Discussion on the resolution. Hearing none, question.
Aye.
Aye.
And I would vote yes. Motion is carried. Resolution is adopted. Joseph Kraus is appointed as Center Ward City Councilor. Item number 3 would be to have the City Administrator give the oath of office. Mr. Kraus, would you mind coming up to the front here and joining the City Administrator?
So, Mr. Mayor, just a bit of information. Actually, it's he technically does not take office until he's administered the office and he signs technically official after this oath is administered, and that's why we're doing it during the meeting. So, Mr. Kraus, I'm going to hand you that, and I'm going to read that. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. And this is the oath of office for the City of International Falls for the Center Ward Councilor. I, Joseph Kraus Jr.,
I, Joseph,
solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution
of Minnesota,
and of the State of Minnesota,
as to my ability,
and to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties of Center Ward Councilor,
discharge the duties of Senator
National Falls,
in and for the City of International
my continuance in office.
during my continuance in office.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus.
Thank you and welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Do you want to give a short bio on yourself?
Put me on the spot. Yeah.
About yourself and where you live and what you do.
Joseph Kraus Jr. Anybody that knows me calls me Joe or Joey. Let's see. I live on 11th Street, the 800 block of 11th Street. Born and raised in International Falls. Educated elsewhere. Moved back in, 1998 graduate of Falls High School. Sorry, I should add that. 2002 graduate of Rainy River Community College. I took my time. Moved back in 2006 and worked as an educator and now currently working for Northland Counseling as the assistant director of the mobile mental health crisis response team and also the coordinator. And here I am.
Would you like to introduce your wife?
And I'm sorry, my wife is in the audience over there. My wife, April, we've been married for 12 years, and we have a pair of 7-year-old twin boys who are in 2nd grade at Fallsville.
Wonderful. Welcome. Thank you. that, we would move under new business to item number 4, and my request is to have Councillor Briggs take the place of Councillor Pearson on the North Couchiching Area Sanitary District Board of Directors.
So moved.
Motion by Councillor Jacksaw,
Second?
second by Councillor Droba. Discussion? Question?
Abstain. Aye.
And I would vote yes. Motion is carried, and the appointment is approved. Thank you. Taylor, would you give the oath of office to Councillor Briggs?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will do that. Councilor Briggs, right hand. Repeat after me. I, Brian Briggs,
I, Brian Briggs,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of the state of Minnesota
and of the state of Minnesota,
faithfully,
and faithfully,
to the best of my ability,
and to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties of board member
discharge the duties of board member
in and for the North Couchiching Area Sanitary District,
in and for the North Couchiching Area Sanitary
my continuance in office.
during my continuance in
Sign that, please.
Councillor Briggs. Item number 6 under new business, Carol Jacksaw, board member for the KCC TV. Carol, would you mind coming up here to make a presentation?
So I'll do it. I'll do what I can.
As an outstanding educator, I know you'll do very well.
It's been a long day already.
I'll bet.
So I'm Carol Jackson. Pardon?
So we're not going to make you raise your right hand.
Well, that's good. No, I would do it. My name's Carol Jackson. I'm a high school science teacher, and I have been on the KCC TV board for 3 years now. And I'll say that we've had some ups and downs, but the one thing I'm most proud of is we've consistently aired new programs, and we have been really good about getting information out about local government, recording city meetings and county meetings and school board meetings. We have basically been operating on grants, most importantly Otto Bremer. So for the last 2 cycles, I believe, we've received funds from Otto Bremer to hire contractors to basically program for us and air information. This past year, we did hire a part-time employee, Darcy Sullivan, and she's just been doing a great job. She's probably put more programs on this summer than other contractors have done in a full year. So she's very motivated, and she's making a lot of connections in the community. So this last summer, we applied for an Otto Bremer grant. They felt that, one, that they weren't sure that our grant proposal completely filled their requirements, but one of the big issues that came up was after 3 years of applying, we were not getting local government support. And this is something that other PEG channels get. So the issue we're at right now, without grant support, we can't stay open. And if we can't show that our local government is supporting us, and some things have to be decided about the station. So that would mean that the government meetings aren't going to be aired. And it's not just cable channel 7 where they're aired on YouTube. And I did put together a rather hurried report of YouTube hits, and I believe I sent it on. And I found some interesting things. People really like to watch the school board meetings. I was shocked by how many hits YouTube had. And these are just hits on YouTube. We're not talking about local residents that are watching the station. So we know people are watching the media. And I probably just know 10 people at the high school who watch the TV channel. So I know people are watching, And the meetings, the government meetings are usually the big thing. So that number about the school board meeting, I shared that with Mr. Grover today too, and he was quite shocked, but happy about it. I mean, people are taking an interest. And I also want to say that these were the last 5, so we're talking over the summer months. And I really didn't have time last week, because I was putting this together, to go back over the last year. I'm pretty confident that if I would have looked at winter months, I would have seen more hits on the county meetings and the city meetings. Again, I don't have any information about the city meetings because they're not on YouTube. It's a direct link to your website. So I wasn't able to get that. I think it's probably a fair comparison that if, 4.5% of what I have here is county meetings, it's probably similar for the city. I mean, people who are going to watch the county meetings are probably going to watch the city meetings as well. And again, that's an assumption. I do want to point out, though, on Table 2, I just put a few things on there. I watch Sports Back Talk, and I watch Coach's Corner with Tim Ringhofer. So those were 2 that I put on there. But just over the last month and a half, 5 concert events, that's 422 YouTube viewers were watching those musical concerts that were produced by Darcy. So I know people are watching. So I'm here to ask for some funding. I requested $5,000 just so that we could have something in the book when we apply for grants that's showing that we're getting local support. I do want you to know we're going to approach the county as well. And we are doing another membership drive this fall. But the way things are looking right now, if we do not get partial funding from Otto Bremer and we can't raise $5,000 by the end of the year, the station's down. So I don't really know what else to say. Do you have some questions for me, or?
Thank you, Carol. Members of the council have questions or comments?
I also serve on the board. I think that over the last, we started this in,
It's in the letter. It was 2012.
2012. So it's been 6 years, and over that time, I think we bought close to $100,000 in equipment. We've received 3 Otto Bremer grants, 5 mid-continent grants, 5 Marshall Knudsen grants. We have about $5,000 a year in memberships. So we have been very diligent in working to keep that station going, or the channel going. But we have to have a show of support also from the PEG franchise, or Z, which is in fact the city, and we'll be asking the county as well. So we've invested a lot. There's about $100,000 worth of equipment there now. And a studio, Bacchus has been very supportive of us as well. And I think that the channel can be an economic development tool as well, highlighting local lives, local voices, local media, local lives. It's really reflected not only in our channel, but also the radio station and the newspaper. But it's a whole plethora of media that we can use to encourage and grow a community identity. I think it's a very, very positive force for development in this community.
I agree completely. I mean, I got on the board because I thought there was some potential here. Northern Minnesota has a lot of assets. What we're not doing is getting those messages out to people. Now, the right format for doing that, I'm not sure, but you have a studio. You have somebody who is motivated to air things, produce things. I just think we need to get something rolling here. I do not want to see the station go away. I think it offers the community important things. It gets information out, there's entertainment, and I think it's something that should be invested in.
I guess I would want to make a few comments, Carol. First of all, it would only be cable users that would receive the signal that's being put out. Those who are on satellite service in the community would not have access to that.
They do have access to YouTube, and everything that's on the channel is on YouTube station as well, so they can get it
They go to
via
their
the internet. Yep.
internet
And there's
access.
links from our website to those programs.
Second, I would say that the City of International Falls has contributed to the support of this. I recall in 2013, being the newly elected mayor, that there was a check for $10,000 to KCC TV, and that was turned over to, I think, the Bacchus acted as a fiscal agent for that because KCC TV was not an association or an organization under state laws at that time. And so I guess I don't know how many citizens of International Falls have cable television, but just for discussion's sake, I would say maybe 50% have satellite and 50% have cable. And so I wonder about tax dollars going to further support. So the KCC TV received $10,000. I know that we purchased a camera here. So I would question doing additional monies at this time. I mean, I don't know where the $10,000 went to, if it went to buying more equipment. But the other item I would want to raise is that in a way, it's KCC TV is a media, and we don't subsidize the radio station as a city. We don't subsidize the newspaper to put out news or report on government meetings, which they do. And so I just really question the city getting into that area. And lastly, I would just say that I know, and I don't know how long ago it was, but there was a survey conducted, and I believe it was by the cable system. It may have been even before Midco, that they sent out a survey to the cable users in the community. And about 75% came back and said they did not want to have any additional cost on their cable fee for KCC TV. So that's the information that I'm
I do remember the last one. Unlike the radio station or the Daily Journal, we are nonprofit. They are for profit. The $10,000 was way before my time, and that must have been what was used to initiate it. I understand what you're saying, but just the same, I don't want to see the station going away, so I'm doing what I can to keep it going. And I do know that if we can't show some sort of local government support, it's not going to be there.
Here.
please.
We actually do collect $14,000 a year from the cable viewers, and that money is right now going into the general fund. So what other cities have done, and the PEG channel is the Public Educational Government Channel. So it is not like, as Carolyn pointed out, a for-profit entity in other cities. Bemidji supports one, Virginia supports one, Ely has one, Wabac has one, Evelyn has one, Chisholm has one, Virginia has one, Hibbing has one. All of them, Duluth has one. All of them support their PEG channels, and they're avidly used by not only government to inform people. These are unedited, totally unfiltered meetings that are provided to the public. So it's the only source you have where you can watch a meeting front to end without any interjection or editing. So it's a full story you get on KCC TV of government meetings. It's a normal practice of cities to support their PEG channels. Further, we're collecting money from the cable viewers. Also, if you really want to look at it, all the county taxpayers, including me, are being taxed for Minneonto. I never watch Minneonto. But that is the public channel for the county. And all of our taxpayers pay for that. It's not any different than the PEG channel, except the PEG channel is the city's franchise channel. And it's provided for the benefit of the city. And other cities have seen a great, and as Carolyn has pointed out, more and more people are watching this and enjoying it. My mother was watching just the other day a musical at Bacchus and said how much she enjoyed it. She can't get out. So it was she welcomed how wonderful that music was and that watching local people play. So there is a quality of life that we're adding to people's lives here.
I can't speak for how many people have cable and watch Channel 7. I mean, that would be a huge investment to do that type of survey.
The other thing is, when we did the survey, 50% of the people said that they would find value in a PEG channel. Half of those said they wouldn't want to pay for it. I will submit to you that if you ask people, do you want an airport? And they'd say yes, but he asked them if they want to pay for it, you get the same ratio, you know? Ask people if they want to be taxed, and they're always going to say no.
Councilor Droba.
2 years ago, we had a group come just before the budget, or before we were doing our budget, and they wanted $5,000 to put towards the Second Creek improvement project. And at that council meeting, we voted, I believe, 3-2 to allow them to get $5,000 a year for the upcoming next 2 years. And that bothered me quite a bit because we were going through the budget at that time, and we didn't actually get a chance to decide whether that was as important as something else. And I actually do support this project. I sat in on the grant proposal that they had that they were denied because there wasn't city backing on it. I'm not so sold on KCC TV on what it's offering on Midco, but it is selling our community and our projects that we're doing here on the internet through YouTube, and what they do, I think, is very valid. I think that we should move this to the Budget and Finance Committee and legitimately put it as a $5,000 interest for our upcoming budget, and we'll look at it as we would every other request that we have, rather than making a decision tonight and then being locked in for the $5,000 next year. But I think it is worthy of us looking at it, but I don't think that it's rightfully before us right now with us working on our budget. So I would make a motion to push this to the Budget and Finance for the tune of $5,000.
I'll second that.
Okay, I would accept Councilor Droba's motion to refer this to the Budget and Finance Committee, and second by Councilor Briggs. We have before us for discussion motion to refer to Budget and Finance. Question?
I would just add for the public's information, as well as our new Center Ward Councilor, that we have Budget and Finance Committee meetings scheduled tomorrow and Wednesday at 12:30 in the afternoon starting. And on Wednesday, we have scheduled times for other agencies to present their reports as to the Budget and Finance Committee. So I would probably propose that the council consider if I guess the Chamber of Commerce, etc.
I would agree.
Other questions or discussion? Question.
Aye.
I would vote yes. Motion is carried, and this will be referred to the Budget and Finance Committee and probably heard on Wednesday.
Okay.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Item number 7 under new business is a proclamation recognizing National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness and Remembrance Day. Submitted by a person in Faribault, Minnesota. It was sent to the city to consider, and so you have before you the proclamation. Pleasure with that proclamation.
May I make a motion to accept, or to make the proclamation without printing? I would make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Councillor Droba to adopt the proclamation without printing in the legal newspaper.
Second.
Second that.
Second by Councillor Jacksa. Open for discussion. No discussion? Question?
Aye.
No vote yes. Motion is carried and proclamation adopted without printing. Thank you. Item number 8 is approving consent to the mayor's appointment of Mr. Thomas Schaaf as a commissioner to the International Falls Housing and Redevelopment Authority. Tom Schaaf would be taking the place of Mr. Gary Davison, who recently passed away. That term expires on the Housing and Redevelopment Authority on December 31 of 2021. Pleasure with that appointment.
Move.
Motion by Councillor Briggs to approve the appointment.
Second.
Second by Councillor Droba. Discussion on the motion or the appointment?
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
I know you work hard and you contact people. I just thought that we should have a process. I thought we did have a process in place that we would advertise positions and open up on these city council committees. This is a function of the city, the HRA. While Tom Schaaf, I'm sure, is a fine person, there was no opportunity for other people in the city to apply for this position. And it goes until 2020. That's what I object to, is the process itself, not necessarily the appointment.
Thank you. Councillor Jacksa, I think there's been, at times we've advertised and not had anyone make application. And I guess I don't know how many of these, or we want to save them up for a period of time to advertise, but the charter says that we need to appoint within a period of time, and Schaaf had shown interest, and so I chose to move forward with that appointment.
How many, and I understand why you did. I still think nobody else had an opportunity to show interest unless they were on the inside and knew that that was a vacancy. Housing is a hot topic in our community. We have that housing collaborative going. We have a committee at the city. It's a passion for many people who serve on some of these. Oh, I don't know if you would have received interest from somebody else as well or not, but I think that, this appointment is for 2 more years, so if it was short-term, like with Brian, that's different, but this is a fairly long-term appointment.
Thank you. Further discussion? None. Question?
Aye.
And I would vote yes. There being 4 for the motion and 1 against, the motion carries and the appointment is approved. Thank you. Item number 9 is to approve a resolution approving the application for an exempt permit for the Borderland Alano Club to sell raffle tickets to be held on Saturday, December 8, 2018. Your pleasure with the resolution. Motion by Councillor Briggs to adopt the resolution.
I'll second.
Second by Councillor Kraus. Discussion? On the motion or the resolution? Hearing none, question?
Aye.
And I would vote yes. Motion is carried. The resolution is adopted, approving the exempt permit for the Alano Club to have a raffle. Thank you. Item number 10 is to approve the airport grant for 2018 runway reconstruction, Phase 1 design and construction, Phase 2 design, and 2018 pavement rehabilitation and snow removal equipment, and authorizing signatures. Motion by Councillor Briggs.
Second.
Second by Councillor Droba. Discussion on the motion for the airport grant.
Do we have any documentation at all? It wasn't in the packet earlier. I mean,
It was an addition.
oh, it was on?
Yep.
Oh, here.
It's on today's agenda.
Okay. I just got this when I sat down then. All right. Well, you're going to have to give me a minute to read this.
Okay, certainly willing to do that.
Mayor, just for your information, this email this afternoon after 3 o'clock, so apologize for your just getting it fairly radically intensive process because these are prepared by the FAA or the Minnesota Department of Transportation's Office of Aeronautics that prepare this for us, and cover resolution substantially in the form that's necessary for us as well as the FAA.
I guess what I want to know is, to cut to the quick here, is what is the local match on this grant?
5% unless we receive additional funds from the Minnesota Department of Transportation Office of Aeronautics. The Federal Aviation Administration will be providing 95% of the funding.
So we're going to do 2.5 of that, right? Because we split with the...
It could be 2.5 or maybe slightly more, depending on how much we get from Minnesota Department of Transportation. Don't know what that, if they're going to come through with a full 2.5 at this point. They do have a limit of 200,000 annually for each airport.
Have we spent ours?
No.
Okay, so what I ask you is, the federal government's going to pay 95%? Did I hear that right?
Yes.
So then 5% is the local match split between the county and the city?
Yes.
And so our share is 2.5% of the gross? Oh, unless...
Of the city.
Unless...
Of the city.
Right. Unless the Minnesota Department of Transportation defrays part of that 5%.
Correct.
Between the county and the city. So what is the 2.5% of the grant? Or, what is the dollar amount? And have we budgeted, it isn't in our budget, or is it?
Well, and it's going to be spread over several years because this is just the first phase of this.
First phase. So, does this grant cover all the phases?
It covers some of the second phase in the design of Phase 2. So some of it would be carrying over into 2020 and 2021, some of the cost of this. I think on page 8, total amount of $6,246,281.05.
And that is for, it's not for the runway, it's for the customs
It's
office.
for some of the runway, some of the taxiway, some of the design of expanding the taxiway, some of the design for the runway. So there's design work that's going into future work on the runway rebuild.
Well, we need a runway, for sure. The customs office isn't in this then?
Oh, that's in Phase 2 of the terminal building.
Oh,
This is the runway. Now, there's going to be 4 phases to the runway work also. That's going to be spread over 4 years.
okay. So this $6,274,896 is for Phase 1 and Phase 2,
For Phase 1 and some of Phase 2.
and some of Phase 2. Okay, well, this is all required. You can't run an airport without a runway or a taxiway that's in good shape, obviously. So, but the total cost is going to be then what? What are we looking at? 12 million?
Well, I think it's probably going to be closer to 35 to 40 million.
Really?
Yes. I would say that Phase 2 is probably going to be somewhere around 14 million. I think that's an estimate. And again, Phase 3 is probably 14 or 15 million. Or will be in the end.
Okay. So, this 5% is going to be on, probably, unless they change the rules. We're going to be somewhere in that ballgame all the way down the road. Okay, so this 5% on this one, and you gave me the number of 150,000? Is the
2.5%. The
Okay.
city share would be about
Okay, 2.5%, okay. Right, just so I understand what we're locking ourselves into. I do agree, however, you can't have an airport without a runway, so we're looking at this.
And the present runway is over 35 years old.
Yeah. What's the plan for the customs building?
Well, the Phase 2 is under construction right now on the terminal building, which will include a facility for the Customs and Border Protection. It will be somewhat larger than what they previously had, because we've torn down the building now at the airport. Also in Phase 2, there will be offices for the National Weather Service, for the Transportation Security Administration, and for the Airport Commission.
I'm going to say this, and you've heard me say it before. I'm for the airport, you know that. I just think that we need to generate alternative revenue sources. You've heard that phrase, okay. And the reason when you get into the customs, it's a service we provide for one thing, our fishing camps up in Canada. They land here and then fly up there. That's about, I think that's about 500 flights a year. I think Tim Jackson told me that, okay? It's been a while since I looked at those numbers, but they're not going to fly to Duluth. They want to fly here. It's what, 200 miles closer. We don't charge landing fees. I want to say, why not? I mean, one of the things, it defrays the burden on local taxpayers if you generate more fees at the airport. Now, so I always thought landing fees, the customs office is important for people flying in from Canada. It's also important for the jet setters of the world who like to fly in here where it's nice and private. We offer a value, but we're not charging it for it, And I think that we don't even ask. And so that's the thing I've said for a long time now. And I think we have to be more aggressive about what we look at as far as fees go out there. We were remiss for years in charging hangar lot rent. And so I think we just need to be more aggressive. I think you've done a terrific job. You've run that commission for years, and I think it's a big, and the commission should be pleased with the accomplishments they've made in this remodel. And I'm delighted when I go there and I don't have to climb a ladder and I can go up a ramp, right? Congratulations. It was hard work and you had a lot of flack, and I was one of them, right? My issue has been, right along though, is the way it's managed, not the fact that it exists. And so I just want to say that at this point.
As painfully as it is for me, I sometimes agree with Councilor Shaxha. I also wonder on the funding source. I mean, the way that we do this is the city pays half and the county pays half. Well, the city's inside the county. And so the citizens of International Falls are essentially being taxed twice on that because part of their county tax dollars are going towards the airport. And I sometimes question that, like, if a taxing district would make sense for the airport, and obviously that isn't something that we can decide today or even in the next year or so, especially with all of the work that's being done. But maybe after we get through this project, that's something we can look at, is coming up with a taxing district for the airport, because the citizens of International Falls are getting hit 2 times on that. Very similar to a couple of the other issues that we have in our community, that we go in with the county 50-50. The city of International Falls still happens to be inside the county. So I just want to throw that out there as something maybe we could look at in the future.
Can I piggyback on that, Mr. Mayor?
Please.
That 50-50 split made sense when we had a paper mill that was valued and paying $3 million a year in property taxes. It's now paying less than half of that. Our tax base has shriveled next to the rest of the county and the wealth at the lake, and we have the new construction outside of the city limits. So this 50-50 split really doesn't reflect the tax base, the proportions of the tax base. Therefore, it falls more heavily on city residents than it does on county residents, because out in the county there's more tax base. Secondly, it's actually been litigated in Bemidji as to whether it's proper for the county to include in their levy, when they do the calculation, to include the cost, their share of the airport contribution. They really should be subtracting it out and then doing the levy, and they're not doing that. And I think the city administrator and both the city attorney have raised the question as to whether that is even proper. So we've got some underlying issues there about the way that burden falls. As you've so eloquently said,
Thank you for your discussion, and thank you for the kind remarks. The Falls International Airport is fortunate. We're one of 4 airports in the state of Minnesota to have the International Port designation. Certainly it is true that a number of the aircraft that use that are coming from Canada, the majority. However, there are a lot of international flights that come here, most by gas before they take off. So they're purchasing gas, which the airport receives some of that income. Some of the flights will purchase food from local restaurants to be delivered to the plane. And it also certainly helps the numbers at the port of entries that we have here because it keeps additional work for Customs and Border Protection officers for having that port at the airport. The county and the city have been partners in the airport since 1961. There's been a partnership there. I think it's not proper to say that it's a full double that the taxpayers of International Falls are paying. I don't know what percentage of the county tax base International Falls is, but it's some portion, and you're absolutely correct. We do pay our city share, and we pay some of the county share. I think the city has looked at the taxing district. We would certainly need to have discussions with our partners if we were going to change that. And so but I think it's been a good partnership. I think we have one of 9 airports in the state with commercial air service. There's lots of cities that are twice and 3 times the size of International Falls, and some 10 times that would love to have air service and don't have it. Mankato, Fairmont, Worthington, Grand Rapids, Alexandria, Fergus Falls, just you go on and name literally dozens that don't have the service that we have been able to.
We can't give up the airport, absolutely not. As far as the fees go, when you take a look, there's 2,000 international flights that come in. Charge them each $100, you got $200,000. We got 1% of the gross receipts from the FBO. So those include gasoline sales. And what is 1% of his annual receipts? It's about $20,000. And so what I say is, you know, the fees, we need to look at additional sources. $200,000 a year is, to me, it's significant money, you know.
Well, you also have to realize that if you put the fees on there, that how many of them aircraft will go to Duluth instead, because we're in direct competition with Duluth right now, and they're trying to steal some of the business that we do get. So you have to be very cautious on what you're going to do when you're going to start putting landing fees here and they don't have them there or whatever. So.
A good point, Councillor Briggs, but I do think that
I think there's definitely a need for some discussion and to be able to look at it, to your point. But we have to be cautious that we don't price ourselves out of the market.
Is there data for the fees that, say, Duluth is charging?
I did some research. There are comparative financials you can pull, and you can see the relationship between alternative revenue streams, local taxpayer support. And by the way, every airport gets local taxpayer support, so we're not alone in that. And then you have the ticket fee, that $3.50
$3.50 or $4.
That's a source of revenue. So the airport operating budget, the last time I looked, was about $700,000. But the overall cost, including the support from the federal government to maintain the runway and everything, is far more than that. But the operations of the airport is what the city and the county support, essentially. Except for some minor revenues from the FBO of approximately $20,000 a year. There's about $80,000 a year from the state and grants, and there's some money from KETA that comes in. We also pay KETA, though, so it's a two-way street. But the vast majority of that money comes from the city and the county for the operations of the airport.
It's also important to note that the last 2 years, passenger count is on the rise.
That's wonderful, yes.
17 saw our numbers go up, and so far in 18, it's up over 17. So
It's much nicer to fly out of here than anywhere else.
Right.
And the city, or the airport, Falls International Airport, as long as it maintains more than 10,000 persons getting on the plane here each year, is eligible for $1 million in capital improvement projects. Those have to be approved by the FAA, but we've been able to do that every year. And so, $1 million. In addition, the $700,000 you spoke of, the state contributes about $260,000 towards that through their maintenance program. So we receive those funds also. So there's a lot of funds that come in on ticket and gas tax monies.
With that, I would make a motion if I could.
Or
We have a motion.
we have a motion right now
Oh, we do. Okay, it's been a while.
to approve the airport grant for the runway reconstruction, Phase 1 design and construction, Phase 2 design, pavement rehabilitation, and snow removal equipment. Further discussion? Question?
Aye.
I would vote yes. Motion is carried. The grant is approved. Thank you. Item number 11 under new business is to approve a resolution setting the terms for an election on local option sales and use tax to finance transportation and public infrastructure projects. City Administrator, would you lead us on the discussion there, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With the City Council's action back on August 6th to approve resolution number 39-18, which was to move forward with asking the voters in the City of International Falls to approve the 1% local option sales and use tax. Our consulting attorneys have prepared this resolution that outlines more of the specific terms for the election. So it identifies, as you can see, that the election will be on November 6th, 2018, which is the same day as the general election. It identifies that the hours of the election will be 7 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the afternoon. All the polling places will be the same as the general election. These are outlined in this particular resolution. It does require that we identify and post the notice of election. It also identifies the election ballot question, and I might just read that. It reads, there will be one question on the ballot, November 6th, and it reads, the title for the question is Local Option Sales and Use Tax, and the question will read, shall the City of International Falls, Minnesota be authorized to impose a sales and use tax of 1% to finance transportation and public infrastructure projects? Now, there might be some question, well, what does that mean? Well, the intent of the City Council is to, funds are generated from the sales and use tax to pay for some of our costs to upgrade our streets in the city, upgrade our sidewalks, street lights, underground sanitary sewer, underground water mains, other public infrastructure that needs to be upgraded or repaired and improved. So, if it's approved by the electorate on November 6th, then before we can move forward with the sales tax, it also has to be approved by the Minnesota legislature, which would be presented to the legislature in the next session starting in January and terminating sometime in May. So the first sales tax would not be imposed until sometime in late 2019, if it is approved by the voters. So this resolution lays out those terms, and the legal counsel is asking that the City Council consider this and approve it. I would add that I would attach to the back of the resolution, just for the council's information as well as the public's information, copies of the actual ballot proofs that were provided by the county auditor, and it's these particular ballots were approved by the city to go to the county auditor, and they're at the printers now and should be available for absentee voters by Friday, September 21st. So I've provided that for council information, and you'll notice that the questions and everything are roughly the same, but you'll see that there's one page for the East Ward, second page of the ballot proofs for the Center Ward, And then the final page in that attachment is for the ballot proof for the West Ward. So, I'm asking that the council consider and adopt that draft resolution, and if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Thank you. Council's pleasure with regard to the resolution.
I would move on the resolution.
Motion by Councilor Droba to adopt the resolution.
Wholeheartedly second that.
Second by Councilor Jacksaw. Discussion. Councilor Droba, please.
I just want to be clear for the citizens of International Falls. The use of this money that is generated can only be what we discussed and had the resolution on a month and a half ago, correct? Like just those 4 items, which was public works improvements, street, water, sewer, the water towers, and the Highway 53 project, correct?
Correct.
I just want... Storm sewers. Yep. But I just want to be clear, it's not for any other purpose. We cannot use this money to put towards the park grounds at Cary Park. We cannot use this to upgrade this building, this facility. It's only used for those purposes, because that is the conversation in our community is, well, they could just use it for anything. And that's not true. We can only use it on what we based that resolution on a month and a half, 2 months ago.
Unfortunately, it's too late to change it now, but the word transportation is too broad. We should have been,
But at least we have something you can look back to that proves the point of what we're going to use.
but we're going to have to get that out so people are clear as to exactly what this is going for, because it isn't going to be on the ballot, unfortunately, you know.
Well, and I think we need to walk a fine line here, because the state statute states that the city cannot advocate for this. Now, we can put out information, and the city administrator, we were looking at some dates for the possibility of some public meetings in October, public information meetings with regard to sales tax, and presentations here in the council chambers. Can you?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor, and the business, we were going to propose that the city council set 2 public information meetings, only be to consider and respond to questions for the local option sales and use tax. 2 dates that you and I had talked about were Monday, October 8th, 7:00 p.m. here in the city council chambers, and then a second public information meeting on Tuesday, October 23rd at 7 o'clock, also here in the council chambers. So we're going to have an evening meeting where people who might have daytime jobs and pick 2 days of the week. So if people had conflicts on Mondays, they could maybe make the Tuesday meeting, vice versa. So closing, and then we're going to talk further, but as a city, we want to make sure that we have a very detailed communication plan. We want to have some information available in the fact sheets or some other informational documents so that the voters are fully informed about what they're voting for, and then how the funds can be used, assuming they're election and through the legislative process next year.
Further discussion with regard to the adoption of the resolution, then, setting the terms for the election on the local option sales and use tax.
Just like to take this opportunity to thank you, Mayor, for the hard footwork you did on this, as well as Ken. I don't know if you were involved, were you?
Not as much.
But Ken and Bob both have put some effort into this, so I really appreciate that.
Thank you. And I've expressed before that tried to reduce spending in a number of areas, and City Council has responded very well and done that, but we haven't been able to reduce costs enough to make up for the increased cost in improvements. And our infrastructure, like many cities across the country, is getting older, and it's getting older faster than we're able to have the dollars to keep it in good shape. And without a good infrastructure, you will not have economic development. It's the actual base for economic development to have good infrastructure. And that's all that this money would go towards over the next 30 years. Further discussion? Question?
Aye.
Aye.
I would vote yes. Motion is carried. Resolution is adopted in the setting the terms for the election. Thank you.
Mayor,
Please.
would now be an appropriate time to meeting dates that
Yes.
suggested?
The public meeting dates suggested by the city administrator is Monday, October 8th at 7 p.m. here in the city council chambers, and Tuesday, October 23rd at 7 p.m. in the city council chambers. Council's pleasure with that. Motion by Councilor Briggs,
Second.
second by Councilor Kraus. Those two public information meetings on the sales and use tax. Discussion? Question?
Aye.
And I would vote yes. Motion is carried, and the dates for those have been set. Thank you. Item number 12 under new business is to approve Amanda Steffen as the camp host at the City Beach for summer 2019. Motion by Councilor Briggs,
I'll second.
second by Councilor Droba. Questions or discussion?
This is the earliest we've ever filled that, correct?
Yes, they did an outstanding job this year and would like to return for another year.
One of the nicest beaches in the U.S., for sure.
Question?
Aye.
Aye.
I would vote yes. Motion is carried. Camp host is approved. Thank you. Item number 13 is advertising 2 vacancies, maintenance worker, 1 position for the Public Works Department of the city. Motion by Councilor Briggs to place that advertisement for hire.
Second.
Second by Councilor Droba. Discussion. Two retirements, need to replace those 2 employees, and so that's what this would do. Further discussion, question?
Aye.
I would vote yes. Motion is carried, and advertising is approved. Thank you. Item number 14 is the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee recommendation on calendar parking, and the first one is to adopt resolution number 18, amending the parking limitations on select streets. And there's a listing of those attached to the resolution of those blocks that will not be subject to calendar parking, but will be subject to the 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. no parking. And again, pointed out earlier, these are primarily streets in the commercial areas of the city, and so hopefully that, and had a number of calls from business owners and others, and so this will cover all of those requests that we've had. Further, the city would be making sure that calendar parking is included on the county state aid streets. That includes 11th Street, 3rd Avenue, 3rd Street, Keenan Drive, and Highway 71. Pleasure with that resolution.
I would, as a member of the Public Works Department, or Public Works Committee, make that motion.
Motion by Councilor Droba,
Second.
second by Councilor Jacksaw. Question, please. Councilor Droba.
All right, so we must have spoke with this particular issue for the better part of 2 hours the other day, and I give the police department 100% credit for enforcing calendar parking, and it's been going on now pretty much all month, and it has been incredibly good. I have been watching people are picking up calendar parking. This is to help out the business area that doesn't have calendar parking. But I think the one thing that came out of our meeting that is probably the most important for our citizens of International Falls to know, if the street is not signed, it is not subject to to calendar parking. Is that correct?
That's correct for the ordinance.
So if you do not have a sign on your block that says calendar parking is in effect or you're not allowed to park, then you can.
On even or odd.
On even or odd days. It must be signed, so if people are getting a parking ticket, and it has happened, that that some people have gotten parking tickets where it is not signed, you can speak with the police chief and we will work through that directly. Call him on his personal cell phone. No, but the reality is this is for much more than just street sweeping and snow plowing. It's about being able to get our ambulances through. It's about getting our public works department through when we had those downed trees and stuff. That ended up being a major issue. And it's also about EMT service. If we can't get our emergency services and our city vehicles through, it's just that important, and that's one of the things that have to be conveyed. And I have spoke to a couple of the school bus drivers that have said that this has changed their entire routes. They're actually getting through their routes faster now because they don't have to swerve through traffic as they're picking up children. So it's for all the right reasons. This is not a money grab from the city or anything like that. What we're trying to do is enforce our city ordinances, and I give the police department all the credit in the world. You've been doing a great job.
I'll give you credit for pushing this issue, though. You're the one who...
I'm paying his parking tickets.
I am now officially at 3 parking tickets, but I have paid all of them.
Thank you. Further discussion with regard to adoption of the resolution on calendar parking. Streets affected. Further discussion? Chair would call a question on adopting the resolution.
Aye.
And I would vote yes. Motion is carried, and resolution is adopted. Thank you. Item B under Public Works and item number 14 is the first reading of the ordinance to amend Section 920, Part C, which is the time of change. And that has always been in effect for many, many years, that the hours from 8 o'clock to midnight of each day are the hours of change when no vehicle will be in violation if they're parked on one side of the street or the other. Chief gave a good recommendation to the Public Works Committee and said, given that a lot of folks are on 12-hour shifts at the hospital, at other various businesses and industry here in the community, that when they come home from work at 6 o'clock, it might be well for folks to be able to park on the proper side of the street for the next day, starting at midnight. And so why not extend the hours of that change from 6 till midnight? And then they don't have to go back out and move their vehicle at 8 o'clock or sometime between 8 and midnight. So thank you for that recommendation, Chief. So this would be the first reading of the ordinance to amend Section 9-20, item C, from 8 to midnight to 6 to midnight. Your pleasure with that first reading.
So moved.
Motion by Councilor Droba,
Second.
second by Councilor Jackson. Discussion. Question?
Aye.
And I would vote yes. Motion is carried. And that's the first reading of the ordinance 9-20. Thank you. Item C is to approve the preparation of a redevelopment agreement for the Keepy Motel site that is in the process of being purchased, and requesting that the city would be taking that building down, including the burn part and the rest of the front of the Keepy Motel. So this would just have the city administrator and the city attorney putting together a redevelopment agreement for that.
I would make the motion to have the city administrator and attorney prepare a redevelopment agreement for the TP Motel, but it has to come back and be accepted by the council.
That answers my question, so I will second that.
Second by Councillor Jackson. Thank you. Yes, no, the agreement has to be approved by the council. Further questions or discussion? Question?
Aye.
I would vote yes. Motion is carried. And the worked on. Item D under item 14 under new business is to authorize committee to negotiate new contract with the Recreation Hockey Association for the use of the Cary Park Arena. And that agreement, I think, is sometime in the spring of 2019.
I would make the motion.
Motion by Councillor Droba.
I'll second.
Second by Councillor Kraus. Question?
I would just like to say it's about time we worked on that agreement. I believe it was a 25-year agreement or a 30-year agreement. It's time to work on that. It does end this next spring, so with some improvements that we have that we're looking at Cary Park, I think this is a great time to have that discussion on the future of the facilities and the agreement. So,
Further discussion? Question? I would vote yes. Motion is carried, and committee will be empowered to start negotiations, which will come back to the City Council for approval. And the last item, the recommendations from the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee is to authorize the purchase of the replacement slide and swing set for the Carson Loopy Playground at a cost of $8,700.
so moved.
Motion by Councillor Droba to approve. And that was budgeted, and his Public Works Department is prepared to move ahead with that purchase.
Second.
Second by Councillor Kraus. Question? Question? And I would vote yes. Motion is carried and purchase is approved. Thank you. Any other new business?
Yeah, there is.
Please.
We discussed this at Budget and Finance about changing our meeting structure so that we have committees of the whole. I thought we were going to bring that to this one.
Actually, I thought we were too. I had forgotten that, but I thought we were too.
So that we could start in October with committees of the whole meeting on all, including Public Works, land use and...
If I could just interject, I think there was a discussion, and we talked about having committee of the whole meetings on a monthly basis, and I think we had just discussed setting the first one for 2 o'clock on October 8th. I didn't know it had to come back to the full council for actually setting that. I mean, the mayor set meetings on his own accord, and I thought there was just consensus to go ahead and do that.
Oh, okay.
If you want to take action tonight to do that, and on a monthly basis, I think we talked about the second Mondays. I mean, that's when this one is scheduled. That's council's preferences.
I just thought it would be good to have it at council so that people are aware of the fact that we are having committee of the whole meetings. They get posted, but this is a change in procedure. So I thought it would be, that's why I'm bringing it up.
The goal was to have it on the second Monday of the month?
Well, we had set one for October 8th, which is the second. That's, the Monday between the first and third Mondays where we have our regular meetings.
Columbus Day isn't a holiday?
Not for, it's optional in the state law, so it's not for us right now. It used to be, but it's not. We actually opted to take the day after Thanksgiving, the one for Columbus Day.
Nothing holiday, get it.
Okay, so we don't need to do anything.
If you want to make a motion, it's fine.
Just to make a record of it, I think it doesn't hurt, make a motion that our committee meetings now will be committee of the whole meeting on the first Monday, or second Monday of the month.
Motion of Councillor Jackson to set the second Monday at what time?
You have to.
Gonna have to? Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. By Councillor Kraus.
It can always be changed.
And announced. Further discussion? Question? I will vote yes, motion is carried, and so the council will meet as a committee of the whole on the second Monday of each month, beginning on October the 8th at 2 p.m.
One other thing. Citywide cleanup. I want to mention it. Now, I want to say that that's occurring this coming Saturday at 8 o'clock to noon at the Falls High School parking lot. The office crew have been taking orders from people. We have a list of about, at least, 20 people so far. The city council candidates, who are all mostly here tonight, are participating. That would be Walt Buller, right? Thank you for being there. Roger will be there. Jackson. Joe Kraus.
East Ward didn't show up today.
Leon Deach will be there as well. So we have it's an opportunity for people to dispose of some garbage for free at the Falls High School parking lot and get to know, shake hands with the very giving and dedicated community members who actually run for office. It's a big, courageous, lots of work. I applaud all of you for taking that step. It's a big step.
Bring an umbrella.
Yeah. So, I mean, I admire that. Public service is to be applauded and admired, really.
Mr. Mayor, can I be excused?
Yes.
I'm going to go get an airplane.
And Brian is going to try on that. And Harley, are you going to make that or not?
No, I'm scheduled to work from 5 a.m. to noon. But I am totally going to fill a trailer and have my wife drop it off.
Okay. And well, I'm working on the trailers. The city crew's going to do the pickup of the white goods the week following now, because it's got to. So we're doing it Saturday, and usually the city crew comes around and picks up white goods prior to Saturday, but this will be after. It'll be Monday, Tuesday, somewhere in there that they come. I wanted to give people more time and the city crew more time. We're taking garbage, furniture, demolition, white goods, computer monitors.
Fairly certain all that information was mailed to everybody in town.
Yeah, I'm just going to reiterate those so everybody's aware, for all our TV watchers. And we do not take brush this year, though. That's the thing, because we didn't have the roll-offs, and so we can't do it. Next year, we're going to have to overcome that, but this year, we're just not able to do the brush, regretfully.
And I've heard that from several residents that would like to see us do some brush, especially with the most recent.
It's a big
the brush
piece,
issue.
and I think the housing committee needs to really look at working with the county more on that, and there really should be, to my mind, there should be a county effort countywide to help people with brush too, not just poles. and you're on that blight committee, it affects everybody who lives up here, not if you just, you know.
I apologize, I will not be with you on Saturday. My grandson is on leave from the Air Force, and so I'm going to go to Minneapolis and see him, so.
Have a safe trip. Have fun.
Further, Councillor?
That's it.
Thank you. Nothing further under new business. We'll move to reports of boards, committees, and department heads. City Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors. Just a couple of informational items. I wanted the council to know that the applications for the administrative assistant part-time position in the police department closed on the 14th, Friday at noon. And so we'll be reviewing those applications, and we also received a couple applications for the full-time, evaluating those as well, and hopefully have some recommendations coming. Secondly, I wanted to, just for council information, allow Mr. Mayor a notice about a open house for the airport. That'll be at the Koochiching County Boardroom at 6:30 p.m. on September 25th. The 25th is this Thursday, and that's an informational meeting for the proposed airport reconstruction project. I don't know if you want to say anything.
Just that we've sent out invitations to that, but also making a public bid. We want folks to understand that this is going to be a 4-year project, and that we certainly want to understand the full breadth of the project there. And I also want to mention that the next day at noon at the Lunch and Learn, the Chamber of Commerce in cooperation with the city, there will be a presentation at that time also with regard to the runway rebuild and the projects at the airport. So both of those are scheduled for the 25th and 26th. Thank you.
Thank you. And I mentioned earlier, but we have Budget and Finance Committee meetings set up for tomorrow and Wednesday at 12:30 here. Also for council information, I understand that the second Blight Forum that was started by the City of Rainier, and the county has scheduled a meeting previously with the City of International Falls and other communities participating. That second Blight Forum is scheduled for a.m. At the county, and then Councilor had already talked about the cleanup day on Saturday from 8 to noon at the high school.
So we're basically going to live here this week.
I don't have anything further unless anybody has any questions of me.
Questions for the City Administrator? Thank you. City Attorney.
Mayor, Council, spent 3.5 days last week in Duluth with the drug court team being trained by a national group that came in, and it was excellent training, and we're going to be making several changes to our local program to conform with the best practices that have been developed nationwide, and it was great program, and we've had an excellent, successful drug court here in International Falls, and this will make it even better. Did some work with Administrator Anderson, making sure we got the proper language on these ballots, working with the county auditor, and considerable work to get it worded the way we thought it should be worded to be most appropriate, and so that was an interesting project. And then I spoke this morning with Matt Donahue, and was pleased to inform him that the city's has completed the parking area for the Donahue Trail project, and he indicated that the monument's supposed to be in within the next couple of weeks. So hopefully we'll have that all done this fall and ready for people to begin trail, and city crew did a nice job on that parking area, and I would commend them, but Matt's very pleased. That's all I have.
Great, very good. Thank you. Questions for City Attorney?
Donahue contract, we are, at this point, we have fulfilled all of our obligations for the Donahue property.
Well, yes, the monument's coming in, and Donahue Trust is going to contribute $5,000 towards the cost of the whole project. We will need, I mean, the trail was roughed in a number of years ago. It's going to need to be connected to the parking area. You know, there's a section there, there's no, the trail head doesn't come right there. So there'll be some work, and that'll be ongoing, maintenance to maintain that trail, although it's going to be in its natural setting. As a part of this agreement that we did, the requirement to make it a first-class trail is no longer there. And so the type of trail that's been previously done years ago when this first occurred will be sufficient, but we'll just have to do some ongoing annual maintenance of it.
Please.
I would add to that, I did have a conversation with the street commissioner, and I think the public works director and the street commissioner were going to make sure that that alignment was completed. Another piece of information, we do have a Donahue Road sign that needs to be erected at, I believe it's Valley Pine Circle, and where there's a sign up there, and they do plan to erect. The old sign has lettering that's too small, and it's been ordered. As soon as it's here, it'll be. That was another requirement that Mr. Donahue was careful about making sure that we knew about up on, and he did call me this afternoon and asked to meet with me on Friday when he meets with Mr.
Good progress. Thank you. Great to hear about the drug court.
It's a great program.
Further questions? Chief Maston, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors. In your packet, you have my August report for the police department. August was a busy month, as it typically is for us. Obviously, right off the jump with our second national night out, which was a great time. Tied up assisting with the Bass Championship, with the parade, all the events that surround that, and we're pretty happy about that. Did some training, some officer training this month. Sergeants DeBenedict and Koschik both attended the Minnesota Chiefs of Police Association. Official. Officer Maston attended the multi-jurisdictional task force commanders training held on campus. Point out that training was funded by the task force, so not out of the state. On the lines of the task force, we again had an operation in our community this month, and that's with also we work with the Cape Cushing area compliance check. So Officer Franz, department, he works with Deputy Turbin, and at I want to say failed to check the identification. Those cases were generated and forwarded to the prosecutor's office. As far as our regular day-to-day activity, we had 584 calls for service. We conducted 180 traffic stops. Out of those, we issued 33 citations. We generated 130. Numbers are comparative with 2017. I don't see any changes or any cause for concern or spikes anywhere. Additionally, you have the information in your packet that breaks down all those calls for services. And
50% compliance failure, would that be like if I went in and ordered a drink if they didn't card me?
No, that's basically, in a compliance check, you'll have an underage individual, typically college-age student who has not attained the age of 21, go and attempt to purchase alcohol, generally an off-sale situation. And then the clerk doesn't check the ID or does the math wrong or whatever, and they...
So
they don't-
it's failure to comply on a case where you may be violating the law. Okay.
Please.
Chief, we do send advance notice to the liquor establishments, letting them know that we're going to be doing that testing and compliance checking. Is that correct?
That's a good point. Yes, we do. That's sent out to all of the establishments. Coalition works well with all of the establishments that sell alcohol to offer responsible beverage server training and whatnot. Everything we can to help them, and then we notify them in advance that we're coming, and then so.
That's not very good then.
Right. So.
It's like giving an open book test and failing it.
Well, the good news is that the referrals were made to the county attorney, so that would indicate to me that they didn't involve our city.
Other questions for Chief Maston? Thank you for great work and for the department. The sergeants found that leadership training in Camp Ripley to be valuable?
They did.
Very good. Thank you for a great report and for the good work. City Administrator, do you want to do the Fire Chief's report? I know that he's probably trying to catch up on sleep, having become a father this past week, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly, he is on vacation throughout this week. He indicated today when we spoke that he'd be back to work probably on Monday of next week. But the Fire Rescue EMS report for the month of August included 6 fire department call-outs. 5 of those were city responses. You can see that commercial fire alarms, a gas leak, and I don't minimize the gas leak when we've seen in the national news what's happened out in New England and Boston area with the gas leaks and the problems that created. So on to those, 1 smell of smoke and a storm event. There were 2 fire responses. One was a grass fire and the other was in response to the fire meeting, but they did have on August 14th their airport and where they do a scheduled burnout and respond to the airport, and I understand. You can see that they also assisted during the bass tournament in the month of August, and as far as ambulance responses in August, we had 85 911 calls, 45 transfers, the total activity in the month of August, and that actually compares to a lesser amount for the same month in 2017. So, the fire report. If you have any questions, I can bring those to the chief and respond via email if you have any.
I do have, we have old infrastructure for sewer and water. I'm concerned about our infrastructure for our gas pipelines. And maybe that isn't our responsibility, but if we have a neighborhood blow up, maybe we should have asked some questions, and find out what the gas company does to monitor. You really can't trust companies to do that. You know what I mean? It's true, unfortunately. So, what do you think? Do you think we should pursue that?
I think they've got a good record of safety here. I'm not sure that there's any reason to doubt that they're still being very careful.
I don't know, I have no idea.
Well, maybe the question is just to be asked to the fire chief next time he comes in. What is the protocol when he does an event for a smell of or a gas leak? what do we go through, who does he call, I don't think we need to get involved in that, but I think that there's definitely conversation that we can have with the fire chief on it, on what the protocol is.
That's what I mean. I think we need to confirm this. Certainly, I'm not advocating that we actually start monitoring gas lines. That's not my point. My point is that we confirm in the light of what's happened in Boston.
Mayor, I'll advise the fire chief.
Further, with regard to fire rescue? We'll go to reports of the council committees, boards, and commissions. Any reports at this time?
Lots of budget and finance meetings coming up, just to let you guys know.
Very good, and we have the special meeting to adopt the preliminary budget and the levy on Wednesday, September 26th at 1:30. Anything further? Audience, anyone in the audience that wishes to approach the council at this time?
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
I sent Ted Saxton a text. I guess there was a mix-up. He has a school board meeting this evening, so there was a mix-up.
Thank you. Hearing none, the next regular city council meeting will be Monday, October 1st at 4:30 p.m. There's nothing further to come before the council. We'll stand adjourned. Thank you.